So we have a case study here with one of my clients, Samantha, and we've been working together for a little over 4 months now. Have had some epic growth and expansion experience in this container. So I'm excited to kind of hear more about this journey for you. So why don't you just talk about what it is you do and where you were kind of at before maybe even hearing about me, which kind of sparked why we started working together.
I could talk for hours here, so I'm gonna try to keep this as short as possible. So I'm an online strength coach and physical therapist. I have been doing this for almost 2 years now, and I graduated in May of 2022 with my doctorate in physical therapy. And when I graduated, I did take a traditional physical therapy job right out of school, and it was great. Like great people, great atmosphere, just not the atmosphere for me. And very quickly I switched jobs, took another job, again, great people, great atmosphere, not the job for me.
Hmm.
And I was very nervous about not being an in-person physical therapist because of the identity behind it. I was very like, well, I went through 6 years of schooling for this. I need to do this. What will other people think if I'm not a physical therapist? Like, what am I going to tell people? Having a lot of self-doubt, identity crisis. And I have completely gone full time with my online business, and I have found a way to marry strength training and physical therapy so that I can still use my degree in a way that I actually want to and that I actually love to do. And I would not have been able to get to this point if it wasn't for Oliver giving me the tools and just our sessions. Like there would be things that I would say and he'd be like, stop. And he would stop me mid-sentence. And my
Yeah.
pet peeve is when people cut me off, but I would let him cut me off. I'm like, okay, what are we doing here? And he would be like, go deeper. And I'm like, what do you mean go deeper? Like, and at first I was still a little closed off to it. Like it was hard for me to
Hmm.
open up to him and go deeper. And it was that fear of judgment, that fear of like, I know what's going on inside of my head, but I don't want him to judge me. And
Hmm.
he was the first person, honestly, that I was able to actually open up to and let that fear of judgment fall away, because you at no point made me feel like you were judging me. And being able to uncover these limiting beliefs that I have and go deeper is what actually allowed me to step into my power and what I act, my purpose, and what I actually want to do, the impact I actually want to make in this lifetime. And it's scary, but Oliver teaches that like if it's scary, it's where you're meant to be. Like if it's not scary, you're not growing, you're not evolving, right? Um,
Exactly.
so that was just part of it. The job, the career aspect of things. There's a couple other things I want to touch on. The second being my relationship. Again, I
Yeah.
was in a 4-year relationship with a great person. He is a great person. I don't have bad things to say about his character, but he wasn't the person for me. He was not growing with me. And part of me in the back of my head knew that.
Hmm.
And I would always try to defend the relationship um, to my friends, to Oliver, even. I'm like, no, 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 he's a great guy. Like it's just this thing. It's just this thing. And Oliver never was like, break up with him. Like those words never came out of his mouth. He never even suggested that we shouldn't be together.
Yeah.
But the things that we uncovered together is what like ultimately I was like, oh, this is the relationship for me. And it made me feel really like scared to admit that, but it was just something that I wasn't growing in anymore. And that's what I really realized through uncovering my limiting beliefs and learning about myself more. Honestly, learning more about what Sam likes to do and what Sam wants in life, and not what, or sorry, what because I am and Sam He also
Yeah.
taught me the difference. And maybe
Yeah, we went a little
they'll
deep
learn
with the
it too.
difference between like your ego
Great.
and kind of like what your truth is, your heart. Um,
Yeah.
and you start noticing, you start catching yourself. And that's super important because you just mentioned that, because that's been like one of the big things. Who was Sam before we even got on our first session? Like, how is she different than who you are now? If you could compare her to how you are now, what would that difference be?
Sam was very much in her ego, and Sam couldn't admit when she was wrong. She didn't like to be wrong because that hurt her ego.
Hmm.
She simultaneously loved change and hated it at the same time, and just wanted things to just be, you know. Didn't
Kind
like
of
any ripples.
stay the same. Yeah.
Yeah, didn't really like too many ripples in the water. Um, and yeah, I would just say she was very egotistical, and not in like a self-centered, overbearing, me way, but just in a sense of people pleasing because I didn't love myself enough,
Mm.
and staying in a relationship that was egotistical for like on my part. Um, just doing things that were not in alignment because ego didn't want me to go there, because ego wanted to stay comfortable. So like Sam wanted to be comfortable. Um, but now Sam leans into the discomfort. Like, I haven't even gotten a chance to talk to you about this yet, Oliver.
Yeah.
But this weekend, when I went to Texas, I went to a leadership conference. I knew two people going, but I'd never met them in person.
Yeah.
I didn't know anybody else there. There were 500 people going, sharing a hotel room with someone I've never met in my life. Crazy. Ego Sam, would have never done that.
Old Sam
I
would
went
have
and I
been
was
like, no way.
networking. She would have been like, "Are you crazy? No, stay here. That's too much money. That's too much of your time. Like,
Mm.
is it worth it?" Like, she had consistent decision fatigue. Um, but now it wasn't even a thought in my brain. I was like, I want to go, I'm going. Changed my flights immediately. I was supposed to be going somewhere else, changed my flights 2 days before the event, went, stayed in a hotel room with somebody I've never met in my life. I talked to her online a couple of times,
Yeah.
but nothing super deep. And went and networked with, literally, I went up and said hi to probably 10 people a day I didn't even know. I'm like, "Hi, my name's Sam. This is what I do.
Love
Who are
that.
you? What do you do?" And it was so organic. And my other mentor who was also there, she was like, "You are so good at networking." And I was like, "Really?" Because this is the
See
first
that?
time I ever feel comfortable and confident enough to
Yeah.
actually do this. And it's because I put ego aside and I'm saying, I don't care what other people think anymore, because that's a lot of what was going
Mm.
on before. Is I care what other people think. I'm in this perfect relationship. Why ruffle the, like, maybe things can change. I'm a physical therapist. It's what I got to be known as. Like, straight line. And it was all about what people thought about me. And now I just don't
Mm.
care. Doing what I love. I don't care what other people think. I was introducing myself to people at this networking event. I'm like, this is what I do. And they were like, "That's so dope." And I'm like, yeah, it is dope. And I'm like taking
I love
ownership
that.
of who I am and what I do. And it was very freeing and it felt so good. And I just, like I said, I just went in there and I'm like, I don't even care if they think I'm crazy, if they think I'm a little weird, if they think I'm bad at dancing. Like, I
Full
don't care.
ownership.
Yeah. I'm just gonna go and do what makes me feel good. And I met some pretty dope people who also were on my same wavelength. And if I wasn't comfortable enough to put myself fully out there like that, I would have never met those people. And I made some great connections this weekend that are actually going to help me further my career. And I would have never been able to do that if I wasn't confident in myself and if I didn't put ego aside.
Let's just take a second. Let's just take a second. There's a lot of sauce right there that was just spilled. A lot of sauce right there that was just spilled. Can you see that? Do you feel that? The change of not really knowing who you were right? And you've talked about like you worked with some therapists before and just
Yeah.
wasn't really the next level you wanted. Maybe they helped a little bit. You can go into maybe some of that, but it wasn't exactly what you needed. And now what I'm hearing is from someone who didn't really know who she was. She didn't really know what she wanted. And because you didn't know who you were avoiding making certain decisions, right? You're like, no, I'm going to think about what everyone else is thinking instead of
Hmm.
what do I want, to this unapologetic, fully authentic you, and just kind of not, just kind of not caring. But in the same way of
Yeah.
like not caring, you're kind of allowing everybody else to take you as you are. You're not holding back. You're like, no, this is who I am. And then
Yeah.
what happened? You went up to 10 people a day or more, letting yourself dance, letting yourself be seen because you were seeing yourself.
Yeah.
And
That's really what
that's
it comes down to. And it does translate to business because as I start showing up more authentically and just start feeling myself and living within alignment and within my purpose and within my values, clients are just coming
mm,
to me. They're like, hey, I want to work with you. And I'm like, where did you come from? I'm like, yes. And it's so, so
yes.
exciting. And I'm just more ballsy. I'm taking more risks, more opportunity, and it's leading to more opportunity. And it's absolutely crazy. Like now I'm leaving the job in New Jersey. I'm moving back home to Connecticut, which I didn't even know that that's something I wanted. Like I had no idea that I used to always say, I'll never go back to Connecticut. No, like I'll stay in New York till we move south. And that was because I was living for my relationship. My
Hmm.
relationship is in New York. I'll be in New York. I'll work a job in New Jersey. It's all well and good. And then we break up, and I'm like, oh, I want to move to Connecticut. And I'm like, whoa, we want to do what? You want to move home? And I'm like, yeah. And I'm like, okay, I guess we're going home then. And I am. In a month, I'm moving back home. And sure enough, I
Epic.
have 3 different opportunities at home that are going to help me pursue my career and what I want. And it's epic. It is because these things would have never been possible had I stayed in my relationship. There's opportunities that probably never would have turned up. So, and that just came from building that confidence, uncovering what was actually going on. Because to your
Mhm.
point of, yes, I had many therapists before. I've been diagnosed with PTSD, anxiety, depression, and I never wanted to take medication or anything like that. So I was like, I just want to go to therapy. I tried talk therapies, I tried EMDR, and just for financially and timely what it was worth was not nearly what I got out from you. Like when I was working with therapists that you go through insurance, I don't want to generalize,
Yeah.
but when they're taking therapists who took insurance did not feel like they cared about me as much.
Mm.
Um, and it would be an hour session, but they'd cut you off at 45 minutes and be like, okay, what time do you want to schedule for next week? Like, first of all, it doesn't take 15 minutes to schedule. Second of all, can we just keep the same time every week so we don't have to keep saying, okay, what time do you want to do next week?
Hmm.
So that would detract from experiences. They would show up late and then not give you the time back. Whereas, like if we start a few minutes late, we make up those few minutes at the end of it. And 2 hour
Yeah.
sessions, honestly, like when I told my mom that I was doing 2 hour therapy sessions, she goes, are you fucking crazy? I was like, Mom, I don't think you understand. Like an hour is not enough for all the shit that goes on in my head.
Yeah. There's a
Like,
lot. I mean, there
I'm
can
like,
there can
two
be a
hours
lot in an
almost isn't
hour,
enough.
but 2 hours is, it allows for a lot of flexibility. And if we end an hour 15, like you got what you needed, it's like cool,
Yeah.
we're good to go, you know? And but 2 hours gives so much time. So yeah, no, continue because you've had experience kind of working with some people in this. And I'd love to hear more about your experience on the other end of this container because it's a bit different. I'm like in it. Sometimes I don't know what I'm
Yeah.
saying, but I'm doing it. And a lot is coming through for me because a lot of it's just about being present, right? That
Yeah.
presence creates a lot of safety, I would say. So I can continue on that experience for you.
Yeah. And then, so I went through just like traditional talk therapy, and and that was through insurance. And that to me just didn't do much for me. I just had some bad experiences. Didn't feel like I got what I needed out of it and paid way too much money for it. And then I tried EMDR, which was very expensive. And I'm like, because it's expensive and out of pocket, it'll work because, people like that actually care more. And not that this therapist didn't care, but it was a lot of just sitting with your eyes closed and seeing what comes up. And I'm like, I need direction. I'm
Mm,
like, I'm the type, I need a little bit of direction. I can't really. And so I feel like I didn't get anything out of those sessions either. I felt like we weren't really doing EMDR. I don't know, maybe I didn't give it enough time, but I was paying way too much money for an hour session that wasn't giving me any more clarity. So I was still kind of struggling with mindset. I am an entrepreneur, so I am always wanting to level up myself. I'm like, how can I be better? And at the time, my relationship was kind of rocky. And I'm like, and truthfully, my relationship was a little rocky. And I'm like, what's wrong with me? Like, maybe I need to get
mm.
back into therapy. I need to figure out what's wrong with me, how I can be better for this relationship. Truthfully, that's why I wanted to get back into therapy. And before working with you, I did seek out a couples therapist who was insurance based and didn't work out. And then a couple weeks went by, I heard about you through a friend, and I was like, let me have a consultation with him. Consultation was amazing, uncovered something that I'd never uncovered before. So I'm like, yeah, you're hired. Um, and
That's how it goes.
and then, like I said, the reason I came in was to fix myself for my relationship. And turns out it just wasn't the relationship for me.
Hmm.
And that's so my intentions coming in here, honestly, were a little skewed. They weren't really for me. It was for somebody else, but I found myself being here.
That's beautiful. That's
Yeah.
it's funny that you were kind of coming in for someone else. You're
Yeah.
still a little people pleasing as you came in, but that led you to that led you to yourself.
And I have a
And
lot of clients who also people please. And we just had
yeah,
a conversation about this in our group chat. And I was like, hey, you know what my mentor told me? People pleasing is egotistical. You don't care that. It's not that you care so much about other people, so you don't love yourself enough. And they were all like, oh, I was like, yeah.
I
I was like,
love
Mike.
that. Yes. Boom. Like, what? It's like, yeah, people pleasing is selfish. It's about you, not them. Oh man. And just to clarify, this is not therapy. I'm not a therapist. But what we do experience inside this container might feel the same as therapy,
Better.
but it's not better. She said it. I'll keep it
I've
there.
had the experience. I've been in and out of therapy for probably 10 years. Like since I was in high school, I would go in and out of therapy. And I'm like, you're not helping, you're not helping, you're not helping. Like nothing felt like it helped.
Yeah, how was the accountability side for you? Because I always try to at least have some type of exercise of like, hey, let's do this during the week, or let's like do this now, right? There was a ton of little exercises we would do,
Right.
whether it was on a session or, as, it was the week before a session. There's a lot of times, right? There was a lot of back and forth texting, voice chats. So
Yeah.
talk about that side, because I feel like for a lot of people, they might not have that with a coach, whereas
Yeah.
that's a big component of this of like, hey, if you need support, I'm here.
Yeah. That's a really big difference too, is like I got to talk to you whenever I wanted. Um, like when I was going through the breakup,
Hmm.
I had some really rough days. I would send you voice notes, me crying, and you would send them right back. And I would send you my journal entries and you would give me something else. Um, and that was really, really helpful because it was in the moment help. Like I feel like, you go to therapy, it's once a week and something happens on Monday, but you don't have therapy till Thursday. Maybe by Thursday you forget about it. You're like, it wasn't that big of a deal. But in this case, I get to come to you real time.
Hmm.
And because of that, you don't forget about what happens throughout the week. Like if something happens, I'm like, hey, Oliver, da 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 da. Talk your ear off for like 4 minutes. And then you get back to me, you're like, da, 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 da. And it's like fun. And you learn more that way because again, it's in the moment. And I would have like panic attacks, freakouts, whatever you want to call them, like, and I would just message him and then I'm like, just kidding, I'm good now. But at least he could, like, you could experience that and like, I feel like you got a better understanding of who I am and what I'm going through
Mhm.
when I can give you that real time stuff. Even when you are like having that panic attack and maybe a couple minutes later, you're like, oh, it wasn't that big of a deal. That gave you more insight though about how my psyche is, like what I think. And then that allowed you, I think, to help me more because you can see that real time, what I'm thinking, how I'm feeling, how I react to things. And even when I was at the conference this weekend, I was texting you and I was like, look at I sent you like my takeaways from the conference, and just like little things. And I'm like I send you wins and it's more of a mentorship really than like therapy. Like it's really a mentorship. And even when things are going good, it holds me accountable to still show up and still set goals, and you'll still find something to like go deeper on and something to work on.
Yeah.
And there's multiple techniques that you use that help me, like the breath work stuff that we did. I love journaling entries, visualizations, just talking. Like you use a multitude of practices that help. Whereas like I feel like traditional therapy is literally just talking. They don't go into breath work. They don't go into journaling. Like at least from my experience. Again, I'm trying not to generalize, just my experience. And again, I've
Yeah.
been in and out for like 10 years. I've seen multiple, I've probably seen 10 therapists. So yeah, I think that additional value is something that you definitely give to.
Yeah. Yeah. Trying to meet you really where you're at. And
Yeah.
the support side too is I think so important because my experience with coaches that have just most memorable experience for me was that I had that. And when I had that, I always felt like I was the most supported because sometimes I just needed someone to either hear me in that moment or just give me some insight because a session can do a lot, but then it's the integration that week until we have our next session, or 2 weeks until we have that
Yeah.
next session. That's even more important. And sometimes integration will mean like things come up again. And
Yeah.
so if you can message me and I try to get back as quick as I can, but even if I don't, I've found that times where you've messaged me, let's say I even don't respond, because I'm busy, you'll almost come to the answer yourself, but just the fact that you were able to articulate it to
Yeah.
someone almost gave it more awareness. And then it was like through all the work we've done, you were able to kind of work through
Yeah.
it. But it also gives me a lens of like on this call, how is that going? Is that still happening? And knowing where you're at. So
Yeah.
yeah, so
And
we
I
do
think
things
that at first,
just a bit
I
different. I
think
was
at
gonna
first
say.
I didn't realize like the value in it, or I didn't realize, oh, I can actually do this. Like when we first started working together, I was not texting you between our sessions because I was like, wait, can I really do that? Is that okay? And I don't know what I think it was when I actually broke up with him that I started messaging you like every day because I was having a rough time every day. Like a
Mhm.
breakup is regardless of if it's better for you or not, it is a hard thing to go through. Whether you like, I did the breaking up and I was a mess for 5 days, but because I was able to message you, like you said, there was one night where I messaged you like crying, and then I was like, I'm good now. I was like, I kind of just needed that release. And then when I was thinking about leaving my job in New Jersey, I just sent you a voice note and I'm like, this is kind of my journal. And then I came, like you said, I came to the conclusion on my own, but being able to articulate that to someone is kind of what I needed in order to come to that conclusion. And you always answer within the day. So it's not like I would go days without an answer. Like you answer that day. And again, that like responsiveness is kind of like it was a big thing, that it was a needle mover for me to be able to uncover all these things and come to the realizations of like where I actually need to be in life.
Yeah, it was kind of like in the moment support. And then
Yeah.
like we would have our checkpoints with the
Yeah.
sessions, kind of have like,
And you would even
yeah,
text me. You would text me if you didn't hear from me. You're like, "How are you? What's going on?" And I'm like, "Oh, this
if I
is
don't
good."
hear from them, I'm like, are you good? Like, is everything okay?
Yeah, and I'd be like, "Yeah, I'm cool. What's up with you?"
Trying to just keep the points. And especially if I would assign like self-work. This isn't homework, guys.
Yeah.
Self-work, right? Usually at the end of each call, would I follow up with you? Would I be like, hey, did you do that? Did you not do that? Is it done?
Yeah, and there was one time where I was like, oh shit, I didn't do it. I was like, oops, I'm so sorry. You were like, are you kidding me?
I was like, hey, it's not for me, it's for you. No, but that's the whole lens of this container is having you to understand yourself more, having you closer to you, right? And so what it sounds like is before you didn't really know who you were. You were kind of still
Yeah.
in the ego, wrapped up in what you should
Living
do
for
based on
other
what other
people.
people, yeah, living
Living
for
for
other
other
people
people, living for image, not for myself.
to living for yourself. That's powerful. That's really
Yeah.
powerful right there. And so what would you say to someone who's maybe just on the fence of coaching? Maybe they're in a similar situation to you. They're kind of living for other people. They've haven't yet really gotten to that place where they can lead from their heart, lead from their truth. What would you say if someone's kind of like, I don't know? What would you what would your recommendation be?
Well, I think it's important to think about what the fear behind it is. If you're saying it's the money or it's the time involved, think about what the actual fear behind it is, what living for yourself is actually going to do for you, because it's probably going to drastically change your life just like it has drastically changed mine. And that's a scary thing.
Yeah.
But leaning into that fear and that discomfort is how you're going to grow and actually start living the life that you want. Like you're wasting time by thinking about it. If you're thinking about it, you want to do it. Just do it. Just take the leap, because you are wasting your time by not doing it. And you're wasting your energy by continuing to think, is this right for me? Should I do it? If you're considering it, you need it.
Mm, I love that. And that's going to kind of wrap up this case study. As you can see, she's completely changed her identity. I mean, huge shifts from a breakup, from from quitting her job, which she thought she was never going to do.
I thought it was
Um,
impossible. There's three things I said was impossible.
yeah, well, yeah,
It's
go through that.
impossible for me to break up with this person because I see myself living the rest of my life with them. It's impossible for me to quit this New Jersey job because how could I not be a physical therapist? It's impossible for me to have a relationship with my father. And in fact, now I'm moving in with my father in a couple of weeks.
That's a crazy one still. She said verbatim, that sounds
Verbatim.
impossible. Verbatim. I asked her, how does it like imagine having a relationship with your father? And she was like, that just feels
That's impossible.
impossible. And then her saying, like, yeah, actually, I'm thinking that I'm gonna actually move in with him. And like we talked and like I saw him the other day, and I'm like, what? I'm surprised, but not surprised, really, because of one, your commitment to yourself has really been the the factor of this, right? People come into this container, but sometimes they're not going to get as much out of it because there's only
Right.
so much I can do. But you were fully in. You were like committed, like I'm here, I'm doing it, I'm not going to hold back. And sometimes it takes a little time to chip away at the defenses of the ego, but you went to those depths. You went to a lot of deep places. There was a lot of tears and deep feelings that we had to go into to release. And you did,
Yeah.
and you did it beautifully. And now, just how much light and energy is being expressed through you is like night and day. It's
Yeah.
so epic to see. And I just appreciate you so much for the light that you're spreading out into the world and how you're showing up as an example for how everyone else can show up true, authentic, and in love with themselves. So
Mm.
thank you.
Thank you.
And that's it. That's it, guys. If you want to know any more details, just send me a message, send me a DM. I always kind of start with just an initial conversation, see if working together even makes sense. And through that, that's kind of also a time where you can kind of gain an experience of what coaching might be like, as coaching kind of starts from the first conversation. So just send me a message if that's something you're interested in. Also, if you're looking for most badass online PT and fitness coach, and for my ladies out there, hit up Sam, because she's
Shameless
got the
plug.
sauce. She's got the sauce. You can see. All right.
Love you guys.